in 2 months. Our conversation for today, we're finding out if there's an end in sight. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Bonsoir, monsieur. Madame. Et voilà.
Ah, babe, what is this?
This is the escargot and the foie gras. Oui.
Where did she go?
You pa one kasa who say obase your pay fiedian.
It's been long since you ever felt like this.
Welcome to the best in Ghanaian entertainment on Aquaba Magic. Welcome home to Aquaba Magic on DSTV channel 150. It's your moment. DSTV.
Ghana is a beautiful country. There is so much of it you probably haven't seen, haven't experienced, haven't touched, haven't felt, haven't eaten. When this is all over, let's discover our land again with new eyes. Let's feel each other again. We are one people, brought together by destiny. Let's make that count. Let's show love for each other and our environment. Let's tell our stories, and let's watch and listen to our stories. There will be so much to tell. Ghana is a truly beautiful country. Be Ghana, stay in Ghana, experience Ghana, make Ghana great. And we will invite the world to come and experience Ghana too. But for now, stay home. Brought to you by the National Film Authority. Supports the Stay Home and Discover Ghana Later campaign. This channel supports the campaign.
Welcome back. So we'll kickstart our conversation with a vox pop from mostly drivers and ordinary Ghanaians, how they feel about this new hike in petrol prices. And then I'll introduce my guests to you.
Recently, Yama drove for an increment of lorry fare, and we're all pleased about it. And Chetney has had tumbium. But yen driver for the Yanya bit to 2 lorry fare unless the government come out with the GP RTO regional secretariat, I can say you increase and to me increase. But we don't have any option say you may increase. Until 4 increment this is not the first time. And yeah, when the first time I say you increase fuel and I say increase bill. But frequently for past 10 years ago, and this is what we have been practicing. Until we the commercial drivers we are not moved about the increment of the price.
In fact, the way they are not ding. And net Ubeko filling station. Sana wouldn't say a top petrol no, and a fuel no. Uka could do a pay see as a price no. Adichinsa. They say we are petrol in Naman Krano. Yen Husu, Yatogu Kemaya, Yen Timin Yajumakra, na petrol nasa. And I so no, and number COVID in Yamamaya ding. Yen Husu, adwuma na yɛ ho so na sɛ na aban tutu petrol no mu no so ɛnyɛ nti wɔn hwɛ na ɔyɛ bibi fa ho man
petrol asɛm no ya ne mo ya na ɔmo yɛ aban no ne ɔno pɛ na ɔyɛ filling station no uduru hɔ a ne ɔmo pɛ na ɔmo yɛ wontumi nka sɛ wontɔ nso yɛ driver fo no deɛ unya tu fem pɛ aban bɛka sɛ ee wanka sɛ mo tu ɔma yɛ tam a ɔde bɛtu fem ama yɛ nso wɔn ama yɛ tam a ɔde bɛtu petrol mu ama yɛ nti aban no ma na adwin kɔ hɔ side ɔhɔ no na ehia yɛ pɛpɛpɛ yɛ driver fo yɛ pɛ sɛ yɛ ne obi bɛku memeti a wo me body kitikiti passing abia bɛti ma bu me nso obi bu me anya wɔ mo na yɛ aban na yɛ because wanka asɛm na ankyerɛ me yie ɛwɔ so ɔka kyerɛ me ansa na watu petrol na watu petrol ɛwɔ sɛ me so me tu fem
first no kura no yɛ statica adwuma no yɛ bɛtu ayi fuel mu se a ti announcement from radio or TV station say the yɛnti hwii obɛkɔ filling station no akɔ sɛ computer asesa tembia obɛkɔ to fuel na computer asesa nti saa ne ma na mpinifo ne ntwa yi on bɛsi sansa suban na nyɛ.
Okay, so welcome back to Good Afternoon, Ghana. What we are going to do is we're going to look at the petrol prices in other jurisdictions. We'll look at the continent here in Africa, and we'll also look at maybe the U.S. But first, let me introduce my guests to you. Joining me in the studio is Duncan Amoah. He's Executive Secretary for COPEC. We'll also be joined by Edward Adambire Bauer, Member of Parliament, also a member of the Mines and Energy Committee. And we have Fritz Moses. Fritz Moses is a research analyst with the IES. Elvis Morris Donko, that's the Vice Chairperson of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, will be joining us via Zoom. And the GPRTU, of course, this is a conversation that affects them, and they'll be joining us in the studio. Ibrahim Abbas Moro, he's the Industrial Relations Officer for the GPRTU. Right now, let's go to the video wall and look at the slides just to get an understanding of how much we are paying in Ghana relative to other parts of the world. So on your screen is the average gasoline price per litre in some African countries. This is as at what, June 2021. So you can see Ivory Coast tops that screen. With what, in dollar terms, that's about $1.1. You can see Ghana is number 3 with $1.08. There's also Rwanda following. Sudan follows with $1.03. Come to Togo. Togo is what, about 93 cents. Benin, similarly 93 cents thereabouts. Egypt is $0.59, and Ethiopia $0.493, and Nigeria, very cheap in Nigeria, that's about 40 cents in Nigeria. Okay, so I know a lot of our audience are in the UK and the US. In the US, they're paying what, $0.90. So that's about 90 cents. UK is about $1.84, and so it appears that it's cheaper to buy fuel in the US than it is in Ghana. So this is some research on the recent increments from December last year to June this month. So you can see from your left 4.67 cedis shot up. Okay, so this was maintained in January, still 4.67 cedis. Moved to the second part of January, or the second half of January, and there's a 0.41 increase, and that takes us to what, 5 cedis. February, March, that's about 0.12 increments, so it moves to 5 cedis, 20 pesos. In April, there's a 0.25 increment, and that goes to 5 cedi, 45 pesos. May, June, you have about 0.60 increments, and that's 6 cedis and 50 pesos. And this is what, June. So this is the second part of June, and there seemed to be a 0.18 increment, taking us to 6 cedis, 23 pesos thereabout. Let's come back to the studio and begin our conversation. Yes, so in the studio with me is Duncan Amoah, the Executive Secretary of COPEC, and COPEC has the interests of consumers. That's what the NGO is about. Duncan, good afternoon to you, and thanks for joining me on Good Afternoon Ghana.
Francisca, thanks for having me. Though not one of those times that we'll be excited to be on TV, because I bought petrol myself on my way here. And when you see the numbers running, and then you check your gauge thereafter, you realize that times are really difficult. If some of us are complaining, you can imagine the average day person who probably was buying fuel around 4.67, like your charts indicated, somewhere in December. Just 6 months down the line, you move from 4 cedis to 5 cedis to 6 cedis, and then we are still going. There is no end in sight yet, because the systems that should give you a certain protective cover or layer are all down as we speak. And I would rather we highlight more on these failings of our institutions, much more than what the international market prices are delivering. You did a very good comparative analysis of what other African countries are selling for. My interest usually is with Nigeria, because we have similar characteristics as they do. They are an oil-producing country. We also produce oil. Nigeria would import, as we speak, sometimes the same cargoes that bring to Ghana takes same products to Nigeria. We co-import with them.
So why is Nigeria
if you find Nigeria at 0.4 cents, right, 40 cents per liter, and Ghana has exceeded $1.20 as we speak, you end up wondering, where did we go wrong? Assuming, without admitting, that we even choose to go the way of taxes, so we choose to tax. It means that if you take from 0.40 cents to $1.20, that's about 80 cents therein every liter. There's a problem with the way we price fuel in Ghana, and the earlier we admit and begin to take a second look at how pricing is done generally, the better it will be for us. But from where we sit, these increments are far from over, because the safety nets that should have protected the Ghanaian from these international or global price shocks are all down as we speak.
Okay.
Talk of the refinery.
I want to stop you in your tracks, because I know you've got a tall list. What I would like you to do is to get into the pricing, and then we'll look at the challenges step by step. I want to bring in Edward Bauer. He's a member of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. Good afternoon to you, and thanks for joining us, Mr. Bauer. The question really is, as Duncan says, it doesn't appear there's an end in sight. You sit on this committee. Why are we where we are? Why are we paying more for fuel than in Nigeria, than in the USA?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so first and foremost, my name is Abambire, the middle name, Abambire. I saw you murdering it seriously.
I apologize for that.
That's okay, that's okay. Now to your question as to why our prices go up, or maybe compared to Nigeria, we have higher prices. It's simple. You see, if you look at the price and the components of the export price, you have one component which is the ex-refinery price. The ex-refinery price is basically the cost of the product, the freight in time to bring in the product to the country, and the insurance and what have you. Then you have taxes and levies. Then you have margins. These are the three major components of the price build-up that gives you your final product when you go, the final price when you go to buy the fuel. Now, if you look at the ex-refinery price, which Duncan was talking about, that let's not concentrate on that. Yes, the fact is that that is an area that you may not necessarily have control, apart from the exchange rate that you can also improve on if you improve on your economy. The taxes and the levies and margins are things that are within the control of Ghana. If you take the ex-refinery price, it constitutes only about 52% of the total, pricing. So it means that from taxes and levies and margins alone is about 48% of our price. So if you ask where the difference will be, it will be purely based on the tax policies of Nigeria and that of Ghana. And that is exactly what is giving you what you have. And again, the other point will then be, how do you manage your exchange rate as when you hinge it on dollar? If every day you have a depreciation of your cedi, what it simply means is that you need more cedis to be able to buy the fuel. And if you need more cedis to be able to buy that, it is a cost that is a pass-through cost. It goes through to the consumer, and the consumer has to pay higher. That is a fundamental reason why we have what we have.
So what's your estimation, or what's your appreciation of how this is being managed in terms of oil prices and with regards to Ghana's policy? What's your appreciation of that?
Look, first and foremost, I've come to realize over the period of time that any time a tax finds itself in the tax and the petroleum price build-up, it doesn't go out again. So, for example, if they were to tell you that we are going to introduce a tax to ensure that Francisca has a very good hairdo for 1 year, and we introduce that tax, it stays there in perpetuity. Why do I say so? Let me give you a typical example. If you look at the SPT, that's a special petroleum tax. The special petroleum tax was introduced in 2014 at a time when oil prices had gone down to roughly around $25 per barrel. We had a problem with our FPSO, and so in terms of even our exports, we had very low production output. These two components indicated that we were going to have a situation where, in terms of our petroleum revenues that we needed to support the budget, was going to be a problem. And that was how the special petroleum tax was put in. And it was put in for 3 years. It was supposed to, and it had a sunset clause, which simply meant that, every tax that is introduced is backed by law.
Yeah.
It said that by December 2017, that particular tax should go out of our petroleum, price buildup. As we speak today, we still have it. All that was done was to move it from an ad valorem, which means a percentage, to a fixed price and to a fixed cost that is found on the petroleum bill. So that's a typical example of a particular tax that was introduced and never went. The second one, you remember under Kufuor, we had what we call the toll recovery levy. The toll recovery levy was supposed to basically, over 10 years, we were supposed to contribute as Ghanaians to retard the indebtedness of toll to other institutions and banks. Now, over the period, this toll recovery levy has been with us for God knows how long. Now we have rechristened it as Energy Sector Debt Recovery Levy. And that is still there. So I'm just trying to tell you that as a country, when we tell Ghanaians that we are only introducing this thing to take care of a particular expenditure, it never goes out again. And that's the reason why that is a policy that is very terrible. And because it's the easiest way of getting money. If you look, generally, government has a difficulty in going to get money from the informal sector. And so everybody uses fuel. So there's no way government can monitor tax cedis that come from petroleum products. And so it's a very lazy and an easier way of trying to get money for development in this country.
Very well, and we thank you for the education on that. I'll bring back Duncan Amoah. You also raised the problem of pricing, and you make the point that there are no safety nets to protect consumers. Explain that to us.
Francisca, when you talk of safety nets, right, what happens in other jurisdictions who are also price takers like us? Everybody buys from the same world market. Why is it that Nigeria has lower prices? Why is it that our prices are higher than even the United States, who pay dollar wages? Mm-hmm. We have exceeded $1.20. They are still within $1. Yet that is an economy that is paying living wages. What are their safety nets? They have an Oklahoma cushion that could store up crude for God knows how long, right? They also have refineries that are working. And so you saw at some point parts of Florida got knocked off, refineries went off, and that affected them. We have a refinery sitting here that has been commissioned since the late 1960s. The hope was that at a time when we strike commercial oil, mm-hmm. we would be able to become self-reliant as a country, because you would have the oil in commercial quantities instead of exporting everything to the global market and going to pay spot prices. Your refinery should be up and running so you can process some to feed your local market. Now, since the refinery got back to government or government of Ghana, and we struck oil in commercial quantities 2010 when we started production, I don't think there's been a year that the refinery has run full 1 year cycle. It does 3-4 months, and then we shut it, and then we say we are doing maintenance, and then we come back 2-3 months, and then we shut it, sometimes 3 years, idle time.
Why can't we address the toll problem?
The minister is taking steps currently, and I pray that he is bold enough to fix toll, because the constraining factors may be quite many. But we would hope that whatever decisions he will take will be towards bringing toll back to, productivity.
And what would it take?
It will take a lot of political will. What has been the bane of toll all along, as some people said, you're giving it to diplomats and you're giving it to party people. Appoint and get people who are results-oriented, people who care about the refinery economics, who want to go in there, input-output should meet something, right? Unfortunately, we appoint people, they go there, no KPIs given them, and then the workers would come and complain, civil society will take issue, you would go and even water supply has been cut to the... It tells you how bad their status had degenerated to. Beyond the refinery, who, if working productively, would be able to give you petroleum security, you also have the bulk oil storage and transportation. A company built with Ghanaian taxpayers' monies, those huge tanks. The name gives it away, bulk oil storage. So Ghana had, at the time of birthing BOST, a plan, a vision that said, look, there might come a time when global supplies might even cease, or prices may be too high. Let's also have those reserve buffer tanks that we can store products. Just last year, Francisca, I won't take you too far back. Between the months of June and July, fuel prices dipped. I'm talking of crude and finished products. It dipped to as low as -37 for crude. Then finished products dipped from $628 to around $170. In some cases, $162. Let's stick to $170. Okay. As much as $450 dip per metric ton. We had a statement that said, look, government should resource BOST to at least store up some products. If BOST wanted to make even profits, that is the easiest way to make profits, because product prices were lower. There was a glut, a lot of supplies on the global market. BOST stored zero. It did nothing. It was only looking for our margins, margins that you charge from Ghanaians at the pumps, right?
The BOST problem comes to what? Management as a similar concern with toll?
Yes, management and focus, redirection. BOST is currently, as I see it, behaving as though it were a private entity. And so BDCs bring their products. BOST is interested in charging commercial rates, and then they store the products for them. Now, once you charge the BDC commercial rate, the BDC will factor that to their pricing to the OMC. Then, when they are done, BOST comes back to us to say, look, we don't have money to maintain our operations, so give us margins. That makes BOST charging every Ghanaian double on each liter. It is so wrong, but we are allowing this.
Why are we allowing it then?
Well, it still will boil down to political will.
Let me get Edward Bauer on this. He sits on the Mines and Energy Committee. Mr. Bauer, are you aware of this, what is happening with BOST with regard to the double charge, and what is Parliament doing about it?
Okay. I've heard what Duncan is saying, and I share partly with him as part of the challenges that we have. Now, if you look at what is the mandate of BOST, BOST primarily is supposed to store strategic stocks. It's a matter of security, fuel security. So that, for example, if for one reason or the other there is this problem that we can't even get products anyway, BOST should be able to at least ensure that for about 7 weeks, we should have fuel supply into the market. So that's why they do that. So they store that. Now, if you look at the petroleum price buildup, we introduced what we call the bust margin. The bust margin is supposed to enable Bust maintain its infrastructure and expand it. Then, of course, obviously, they then can store them over the years. Indeed, I think for almost 4 years now, Bust has never had a drop of petroleum product. That is it. What they do is that they rent out their tanks to make money. And that's what they just do, basically. It is a question of government priority as to whether they are interested in making Bust execute its mandate for which they were established. That's one aspect. If you look at the issue of TOR, TOR's own basically goes beyond just the fabrication. One, ordinarily at 45 metric tons per, in terms of their, the capacity, they process about 45 metric tons. That's the capacity of it. You cannot break zero even with such a thing, with any serious refinery. Over the years, there have been a talk of one upgrading TOR, and of course, also expanding its capacity. Unfortunately, TOR, and for that matter, Bust, and most of the SOEs, when I use SOE, that's a state-owned enterprises within the energy sector, are run not by professionals, but are run by politicians. And so, just the core competence to run such an asset, national asset, becomes a problem. And so you have all this. But the part that I still think, and that's the part maybe myself and Duncan differ a bit, is that assuming that TOR was operating very well, we still will have to buy the product and refine it. And that's how the ex-refinery price comes in. We still have to do it and refine it. Yes, the cost may come down in terms of, even with freight and other things, definitely TOR would have added the cost of freight and insurance and everything to it. For me, I think that the issue has to do with how does government not see petroleum products and taxing petroleum as a major source of revenue. If government tends to have a mindset that is different from that, because remember I told you, if you were to take the ex-refinery price, it is about 52%, so for about 48% is purely taxes and levies. And let me tell you one funny thing. There's a component in the price buildup that is known as price stabilization and recovery levy. Mm-hmm. This is an amount you and I pay per liter for days like this. That, for example, if it is supposed to prevent volatility. So you remember in your intro, you said that for about 3 months or so we have had changes, and even Duncan talked about from December to now we've gone from 4 point something to almost 6 cities. You understand my point? Mm-hmm. So if you have a situation like this, this is something that keeps the price being volatile. Transport owners cannot plan, business owners cannot plan, everything. And so because of that, government decided to introduce what we call the price stabilization and recovery levy. So that anytime prices go so low, like what Duncan was talking about when prices came so low in terms of the oil prices in the international market, that monies and other things that were, either they can decide that, look, we can maintain the price that way and build more of our reserves. Say that anytime the prices are going to go up, this price stabilization and recovery levy we use to discount the increase that would have come on. I don't know if you're getting the point I'm trying to make.
I'm getting
so that you have stabilized price. You and I know that amount, one, we do not know how it is expended. I remember the last time the MPA came and met Parliament. I asked them specifically what that amount was being used for, because I do not see the effect of it in the pricing that we have in terms of our export prices. One, MPA said they were not the custodians of those monies. It was Ministry of Finance. Two, the other explanation they gave was that it was hugely used to subsidize premix and MGO. So if you have situations where government itself is not very transparent on some of these monies that they take, whether they are margins, and when I use the margins here, I'm talking of the statutory margins, not the distributors' margins, but the statutory margins. And whether the margins, whether the taxes and levies, then we begin to have a challenge. So for me, One, yes, the SOEs in the downstream sector are not functioning very well.
Okay.
But I think that it is clearly also as a matter of a government policy, as to, because it's a deregulated market. So for me, assuming that you have any businessman who is in the oil, the downstream sector, for him, anytime the prices go up, he adjusts because it's a pass-through. The businessman is in the field to make money. It is you as a policy maker and the government to ask yourself that, as a government, I must be seen to be responsible. In as much as I need monies to develop, I must also not visit and throw hardship on my people. How do I go around it? Which are the factors that I have control over? One, I have control over making sure that the economy is good, so that the dollar-CD exchange rate is stable. That's one. Two, I have a responsibility to see how do I widen my tax such that I don't overburden people through taxing only fuel prices. Because fuel prices do not only go into terms of our engine, it affects food, because people will have to bring food from the hinterland back to the cities. It affects our normal transportation.
It's a ripple effect. It's a ripple effect, and I agree with you.
Yes, the government has to think around it. How do we get those things done? But if we sit down, we think that it is the surest way of getting money to handle our bills that come as a government, then we will have situations that we'll find ourselves in.
Let me bring in Ibrahim Abbas Moro. He's with the GPRTU, the Industrial Relations Officer. Good afternoon to you, sir, and thanks for joining us. How does the GPRTU receive the news of yet another hike in fuel prices?
Good afternoon. It is sad, and we are all having the attention and for and I put this question, are we going to continue this? If the answer is yes, more than years ahead. Because even with this 15%, and sorry, with this 13%, people that the battle. As I speak now, most of the government cannot be happy with. But while we will just look at all the issues, so if within a shorter time, we are going to continue the way in our the programs ahead. Before this increment, look at where we were. In this shorter time, we had an increment of about 1% on the dollar. And if the way it was before the current transport is going to continue that way, we are going to take the
Okay. I'm having a bit of difficulty hearing, but I'm sure my producers will rework that line. But I guess it's about having your meetings to understand what's going to happen next. So we'll definitely hear from the GPRTU. Duncan, I'll come back to you in the studio. Help us digest, really, the price build-up.
So like Edward said earlier, you have the 3 stages of price, and the ex-refinery stage, you are looking at the actual cost of the product, the refined product. And then you come in to add your taxes, right? Your taxes and levies. And then that will take you to ex-depot pricing. So how much the product will cost at the depot stage when you are lifting. And then you come to add your margins and those markups. And then you come to the ex-pump pricing eventually. Now, what key factors decide these 3 stages? At the ex-refinery stage, you are looking at what, like he said, the actual cost of the product. But where I would differ with him again, I'll explain.
Okay.
The cost would differ from country to country. And so though the global basket would exist, even for crude pricing, you know there are different layers of pricing. WTI, Brent, and then you have Dubai, Asia, quite a number of them. Okay. Sometimes they differ. And so when you go to the finished basket, right, what Europe would offer you probably will be quite different from what the Americas and the Asia producers would also offer you. But let's agree that there's even a standard benchmark. So you have international market price, IMP. Then your cedi becomes a factor because you buy in the dollar, you need to convert to the cedi to sell to the Ghanaian market. So when you even buy and the cedi again is not stable, Ghanaians are going to pay more. Look at where some of the problems are coming in. Ghanaians are going to have to pay more. We have said that give the BDCs a certain forward rates, right, for Forex, so that they know per this quarter, this is how much they are importing for, right? This is how much they are getting their dollar for. The dollar we auction. Give some to fuel importers so that they know they have a quota in there. Per this quarter, $1 to the cedi will be 6 or 5.6. Then the forward rates could be at least curtailed. We don't do that. So they also have to go to the open market and look for dollar.
Why don't we do that?
That is down to policy. Those who, engage in the auction, what they do for the fuel importers, we do not know. Now, once that is cleared, you come to where we have said Parliament should embark on legislation to put a ceiling, right? A ceiling to taxes. As it stands today, finance ministers have a blank check. And so if you put me there tomorrow morning and I also want to collect more money from Ghanaians, the easiest, lowest hanging fruit is fuel taxes.
Let me make an intervention, so I'll pause a bit. And thankfully, we have a member of parliament who is also on the Mines and Energy Commission, committee. Mr. Barr, so is this something that parliament can do? If yes, why hasn't it been done?
Capping fuel taxes.
Do I have Mr. Barr on the line?
Yeah, you have me.
Great. So Duncan, okay, very well.
So basically, there's nothing Parliament cannot do. As long as it is law, isn't it? So assuming that today we, as a country, we decide that we say that the tax component of our PBU, that's the price build-up, cannot go, say, 20%, beyond 20% of the export price. It can be done. You understand my point? It is a law. I mean, in this country or in other parts of the world, we've seen situations where parliaments pass laws to even kill human beings. So there's nothing Parliament cannot do. The question then is that if that is the case, government must have other alternative ways of raising revenue. I try as much as possible to be fair to government at the same time and to criticize government for being lazy. In the sense that, look, government needs money to be able to run out a lot of things. That I agree. But government must find innovative ways of doing that. And must not just be centered on just tax. Look, let me just give you. You ask for the tax build-up. You ask for what makes up the what do you call it? The export price. You ask Duncan. Let me just tax this alone for you. I'm just going to. But you see, after the ex-refinery price that he mentioned, you have the energy debt recovery levy. You have road fund levy. You have energy fund levy. You have price stabilization and recovery levy. You have sanitation and pollution levy. You have energy sector recovery levy. You have special petroleum tax. You have petroleum distribution margin. You have bust margin.
That's even the tallest.
It's a crazy one.
So you have all these things that are there. And you see, some of these things, some of these ones are things that you can do. Look, if you look at MPA, for example, which is supposed to be the regulator of the downstream, MPA has other innovative ways. They have introduced other measures, like automatic gauging trackers that are supposed to monitor fuel from point A to point B. Meanwhile, they have also introduced what we call the fuel marking scheme. Now, the fuel marking scheme, that's about 8 pesos per liter for every fuel you buy. My sister, the essence of this particular marking scheme is supposed to ensure, listen to me very carefully, it's supposed to ensure that we do not have adulteration, because they introduce a biological reagent into it to give it a particular color. And so it's not supposed to avoid adulteration, and it's supposed to ensure that taxes are paid on the petroleum product. These are the two reasons. Guess what? And this is serious, and I want you to listen to this very well. Based on the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors report, what they call their annual report that they gave in 2019-2020, they indicated that government lost up to 1.9 billion Ghana cedis in terms of tax revenues. And this means that this fuel marking scheme is not working. And guess what the reasons they gave for these losses in terms of tax revenues was because of corruption from the custom division of GRA, national security, and officials from the office of the president. These were the three reasons they gave for this. So once you are charging Ghanaians to pay 8 pesos per liter to ensure that our products, one, are properly taxed, and two, that they are of high standard, we have state operators, because officials of GRA, national security, and officials in the office of the presidency are all paid by the taxpayer. And they are compromising. So once we pay for this, they make sure that they undermine even the usage of this money. And so I'm just trying to give you a very clear indication that, look, until we change Sasaki, you see what is happening in the petroleum.
And it appears that these are things that can be changed from what you're saying. Permit me to bring in another guest. That's a research analyst with the IES, Fritz Moses, and he shared some of his research with us in our preparation. Fritz, good afternoon to you, and thanks for joining us. What's your take on all of this?
Okay.
Hello,
right.
Fritz.
Having me, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
All right. So, yes, I've been following the discussion. I think there are a lot of points that have been made already. The Ghana's, like the comments made by Duncan and also the honorable member of the committee, of the Mines and Energy Committee. The basis of Ghana's continual increase in prices for as we have been saying over the period, the increment and the continual introduction of new taxes, and of course the increment of some of them too. In the event where as a nation where we are looking at development, we think that the petroleum industry or the downstream petroleum industry is a cash cow for us to be able to, or for the government to rake in more revenue. Then it means at the end of the day, the consumer that will face the challenges that will come from that. That's why we think at IES that some of the tax or the levies component in the price border are essentially, unnecessary or unimportant. We've seen some of the some new increments in levies and margins that are the price border that we think shouldn't have happened or shouldn't have taken place, specifically or especially within this year where we are having the current international factors affecting local prices substantially. Also, we've also seen an inefficient utilization or inefficient or improper use of the energy stabilization and recovery levy. That's part of the price border, which should have rather helped stabilize prices a bit. You don't see that still happening. Now, for us as a country, the only problems or the only times that we see prices being stabilized, even when they are implementing in the international market, is when these OMCs are looking at increasing their market shares. Now, we don't see that competition that would allow for the OMCs to operate normally, but then again, also, of course, to have them also make the profits that they would require or they would need. It's always been whether, the smaller OMCs will look up to Oil or Shell or Total to see whether their price will go up before they will increase theirs, because at the end of the day, they are looking at the ability to maintain the prices and to, of course, maintain their market share. And that's what we should be looking at. For the international prices in Ghana, we will only be able to, so much as a country, affect this because our production is even lower than what we need as a country. And so we will not be able to do much to that to affect that. But then again, we can look rather at our tax component in the price quota.
And I'll pick on something, an essential part of your contribution, which is the burden on consumers. And COPEC is here. COPEC represents consumer interests in the sector. Duncan, it appears, and this is the first point you made, that it appears there's no end in sight. What really should consumers do then? What are we going to do?
Let me put on record that at some point we'll jump onto the streets, because clearly nothing seems to be working. You wake up Sunday, it's gone up. Public holiday is gone up. You wake up Tuesday, it's gone up. You wake up January, it's gone. March, gone. It's gone. And so the only outcome is that our pockets are getting drained by the minute. And like I said, for some of us who will buy 100 cedis and hope that it will take you through 2 to 3 days, now the 100 comes as a drop, because from the 4.6 thereabouts, you are doing 6.2. This morning I had a complaint somewhere in the Bonong Ahafo, a town called Seikwa or whatever. There's a station there selling for 6.35.
Whoa.
There's quite a lot happening, and people are being inconvenienced by the day. We have said that even if fuel would sell for 6 cedis, stabilize fuel prices, like Edward said. You are charging all of us price stabilization and recovery levy. How do you stabilize prices? From charging me almost 14, 15, 16 pesos, right, per liter to stabilize prices? Is it the stability we are saying? So things are not adding up. Again, to add to some of the taxes he enumerated, something called UPPF, Unified Petroleum Price Fund, which is supposed to move products from depot or PDM, also to move products from depot to another station, right? We have said move the product to a depot, but allow the OMCs to move their own products from the depot to their stations. Must I be the one paying? The consumer should be the one paying for all this movement of petroleum products. It doesn't make sense. Collapse one, combine them, so that if I need to move petrol from here to Kumasi, that is fair. Okay. But if I need to move petrol from here to Kumasi, and let's say Kumasi, say Bantama, where the depot is, then there's a fuel station in Bantama. So if you move from the depot to the fuel station, the consumer in Accra is paying for this. Does this make sense? They need to collapse some of the taxes, the toll list. And like he said, some that came with sunset clauses, some were introduced because world market prices for crude at the time had gone so low, 28. Government was losing revenue from our petroleum exports. Then it comes to a point where government is now making more than the 56 we projected in our budget. Today, 73. Yet we are still charging that tax. It makes no sense. We are just being inconvenienced. Yes, you need to take a thorough look at the price and build. You'll be able to find where the demons are hiding.
Okay.
Beyond these demons is fixing your system, where BOST is repositioned to have to work for the interest of Ghanaians. Okay. If and only if they are going to still benefit the margins that we all give them. Anything other than this, BOST is charging us double. There's toll levy on your price build. Toll is not working. It's an idle plant, right? If you put BOST and toll levies alone together, 12 pesos gone. If you take out the stabilization recovery, 16 plus 12, 28 pesos. That's quite a chunk of money we are throwing away. It's doable.
What I want us to do is to take a break. When we come back, I'd like to interrogate something that you said, that we might have to hit the streets. And I'll give my guests, 1 minute each to wrap up on this conversation. We know it won't end here. But this is Good Afternoon, Ghana, with me, Francisca Kakra-Foss, and we'll be right back.
Euro 2020, Europe's grandest football championship with Europe's grandest players.
Oh, what a goal! Ronaldo, it's a second.
It's not about where it's played, but how it's played. And when it's played on a stage this big by players this intense, it's anyone's game. UEFA Euro 2020. Get and stay connected to DSTV to watch UEFA Euro 2020 on dedicated SuperSport channels.
The world has seen a lot of evolution in recent times. Global network facilitated by trade continues to grow stronger and forge nations closer together.
On International Trade Focus, we'll share with you the current industry, tech and commercial avenues turning the world's trade wheel. This is your gateway to international business connections and trading events. Get the inside views, vital information, trends and analysis on emerging trade giants in Ghana and beyond. International Trade Focus, the global television trade showcase, transcending barriers in creativity and innovation. Join me, Anna Spiel, as I give you a whole menu of international trade activities. International Trade Focus, your timely business hub. International Trade Focus is brought to you by GOL, ADB, Pediastic Valley Resorts and Public Elegance.
Welcome back. On the break, we were trying to do some mathematics here with Duncan, and I think we were both getting frustrated with the numbers. Duncan, share with us what you calculated.
Francesca, it is frustrating, really frustrating. If you go buying 100 Ghana cedis, today you can't even get 20 liters. 100 Ghana cedis will give you something around 15, 16 liters. And so you go to the pump, and 100, and you watch, it's done.
Let's talk about the revenues from the road fund.
Francesca, the numbers that we have corroborated by the industry reports, those numbers from MPA and everybody, says that Ghana is generating a minimum 1.4 billion. It's actually 1.44 billion. We are doing about 122 million monthly. So 1.44 billion. You say that the cost of constructing a kilometer of road in Ghana is $1 million, right? So we accept those numbers. Do 1.2 million. Don't worry. Escalate it. What it does mean is that each single year, using the taxes on road fund alone, Ghanaians should see a minimum of 1,000 kilometers of additional roads or new roads. Francesca, between Accra to Kumasi is 273 kilometers. So Ghanaians can imagine what a 1,000-kilometer stretch would have meant or would have looked like. From road fund alone, not monies you borrow from international market, World Bank, grants and all of that. Road fund alone. Yet, we cannot point to any significant roads that the trotro drivers' taxes are being applied to.
But Duncan, let me just interrogate this. You talk about if nothing is done, citizens or consumers should consider hitting the streets. Will that bring change, the change that you're looking for?
Francesca, we've had a demonstration at Scopec in the past. It brought a change. Parliament really had to sit and struck out some of the taxes.
Okay.
If we do not see anything being done by authorities, I'm sure the only thing we'll be left with, when you run out of fuel, you park your car and then we all hit the streets. But that will come up very, very shortly.
Let me bring some messages because already people are also expressing their frustrations on social media. Sefia Moore says, fuel prices up again, government behaving like a dead mother sleeping on its child, regardless of how loud the baby cries. This message says, in fact, Akufo-Addo's administration is killing the poor in Ghana. Another messenger, good afternoon to you and your viewers. Talking about fuel pricing today is all about politics going into paying of debts and misused loans. Well, I have 30 seconds to wrap up. I'll give the last word to Mr. Bauer, the member of Parliamentary Committee on Mines and Energy. Mr. Bauer, I'll give the 30 seconds to you. So help me draw the curtains on today's program. Is he still connected? Mr. Bauer, can you unmute? Exactly, yeah.
The point I'm just trying to make is that, look, there was something Duncan just said, and I'm worried about it. There's always what we call the indicative maximum price of export of our pump prices in their places. So when you have a situation where a community is charging around 6.32, MPA must zoom in very quickly. That is something that it is their role. They are a regulator. They must make sure that they protect what they call it.
Okay, we'll leave it here. Grateful to you for your time here. Gentlemen, I'm very grateful. Forgive me because I've run out of time. Mr. Bar, don't be mad at me. We'll have further discussions on subsequent programs. I'm Francisca Kakra-Forson. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to my guests.
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.